Welcome to Module 4, Professional Practice, Documentation, and Student Safety. This module covers how we communicate with families, how we document our work, and how we keep students safe. By the end of this module, you'll be able to communicate professionally with families, schools, and colleagues, write objective, legally appropriate documentation, understand confidentiality and privacy expectations, recognize your responsibilities as a mandated reporter in California, respond appropriately to emergencies and student safety concerns, and understand professional boundaries. Let's start with why this module matters. Your clinical knowledge helps students learn. Your professionalism builds trust. Your documentation protects students. Your communication strengthens partnerships. Your safety knowledge can save lives. At ALC, every interaction should reflect professionalism, compassion, and respect. Now let's talk about professionalism and family communication. Professionalism means being prepared before every session, starting and ending on time, dressing appropriately, speaking respectfully, being dependable, protecting confidentiality, following through on commitments, and continuing to learn. Parents often arrive at ALC feeling overwhelmed, confused, guilty, frustrated, exhausted, or unsure who to trust. Our goal is for parents to leave feeling heard, supported, hopeful, confident, and part of a team. We communicate to educate, collaborate, and encourage. Never criticize, never shame, never surprise. When talking with parents, reframe your language. Instead of saying he refuses to work, say he has difficulty initiating tasks when the work is overwhelming. Instead of she isn't paying attention, say she benefits from additional supports to sustain her attention. Instead of he's lazy, say he demonstrates strong understanding but has difficulty consistently applying executive functioning skills. Parents may ask why their children isn't making faster progress, what diagnosis you think they have, whether they should change schools, or whether they should start medication. Clinicians should stay within their scope of practice, avoid diagnosing, offer observations instead of conclusions, and refer back to Caroline or the appropriate licensed professional when questions go beyond your role. Clinicians at ALC teach learning strategies, build executive functioning, support academic growth, observe patterns, and collaborate. We do not diagnose, recommend medication, provide psychotherapy, promise outcomes, criticize schools, or tell parents to ignore medical advice. We communicate through email, text, phone, in person, chat. Every communication should be professional, objective, timely, kind, and clear. Now let's talk about documentation. Documentation is a communication tool, a legal document, a progress record, and protection for students, clinicians, and ALC. Good documentation is objective, specific, accurate, professional, and timely, never emotional, never judgmental, and never speculative. Avoid subjective labels like student was lazy, student was rude, student didn't care. Instead, use objective language. Student required 4 prompts to begin work. Student became tearful after 1 correction. Student left seat 6 times during the session. Or student independently used a graphic organizer after 1 verbal reminder. Observable facts are far more useful than labels. Every session note should include the goals addressed, activities completed, the student response, strategies that were used, any progress observed, the plan for next session, homework if applicable, and parent communication. Now let's talk about confidentiality and privacy. Families trust us with deeply personal information. Never discuss students at restaurants, with friends, with spouses, on social media, or in public spaces. ALC is an educational service, not a medical provider. So HIPAA generally does not apply unless ALC provides healthcare services that make it a covered entity. However, confidentiality expectations remain just as important. If collaborating with schools, always obtain written parent permission before sharing student information. To keep information secure, keep student records secure, use password protected devices. Don't store student information on personal devices unless approved and secured. Share information only with authorized individuals and with appropriate parent or guardian consent. And use encrypted or approved platforms for communication when available. Now let's cover one of the most important parts of this module, mandated reporting and student safety. Every California employee who qualifies as a mandated reporter must complete California's mandated reporter training and understand their legal responsibilities. Whether all ALC clinicians are mandated reporters depends on their role and employment status, so consult legal counsel to determine which positions are covered under the California Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act, or CANRA. Many professionals working directly with children are mandated reporters. CANRA covers physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, severe neglect, willful cruelty, and exploitation. Remember, reasonable suspicion is enough. You do not need to investigate. You report. If you suspect abuse, stay calm, listen without leading questions, do not promise secrecy, document the student's exact words when possible, notify Caroline immediately according to ALC policy, and if you are a mandated reporter, make the required report as soon as possible under California law, following the written reporting requirements. Know how to respond to medical emergencies, seizures, allergic reactions, asthma, head injuries, fire, earthquake, and a missing child. Review ALC's emergency action plans, evacuation routes, emergency contacts, and the location of first aid supplies. Sometimes students disclose statements like, I hate myself, I wish I wasn't here, or no one would care. So take every statement seriously, remain calm, stay with the student, notify Caroline immediately, and follow ALC's crisis response procedures. If there's an imminent risk of harm, call 911 or the appropriate emergency services. Now let's talk about professional boundaries and working with schools. Healthy boundaries include do not friend families on personal social media, do not babysit current students, do not give gifts of significant value, do not communicate through personal accounts, keep relationships warm but professional, and avoid dual relationships that could impair professional judgment. Our role with schools is collaboration. We advocate, we educate, we communicate respectfully, we avoid blaming teachers, and we focus on solutions. When attending meetings, come prepared, stay objective, and keep the students' goals at the center of the discussion. Always ask, never guess. If something feels uncomfortable, unusual, or outside your scope, consult Caroline before proceeding. One of the strongest qualities of a clinician is knowing when to seek guidance. Let's apply what we've learned to 5 realistic scenarios. A parent asks, do you think my child has autism? How do you respond while staying within your scope? You can write your answer on a Google Doc and email it to Caroline. Scenario 2. A student says, my dad gets really mad and hits me. What are your immediate steps? A teacher asks you to email assessment results directly. You don't know whether the parent has given permission. What do you do? A parent texts you at 10:30 p.m. asking for advice before tomorrow's IEP meeting. How do you respond professionally? While writing your session note, you catch yourself typing, "Student was lazy today." How would you rewrite the note using objective language? Now it's time for a knowledge check. Write your answers in a Google Doc and share it directly with Caroline. Question 1. What information belongs in a session note? Question 2. Why is objective language important? Question 3. When should information be shared with the school? Question 4. What should you do if a parent asks for a diagnosis? Question 5. What is your responsibility if you have reasonable suspicion of child abuse? Question 6. What should you do if a student makes a statement suggesting they may harm themselves? Question 7. Name 2 examples of maintaining appropriate professional boundaries. Thank you for completing Module 4, Professional Practice, Documentation, and Student Safety.